Well, welcome again, Mayor Jeff Schielke back for my weekly report to the community on how we are standing, reference the whole coronavirus situation. It is becoming more increasingly complex as we move forward. There's a lot of new things developing, a lot of new ideas, court decisions, all these varied things, and so there's a little bit for me to cover today. I try to make this somewhat understandable for most people, so I always like to share a couple community stories that I hear out and around about what people are doing. One of them is I was greatly entertained the other day in talking to a lady who tells me that she's begun a daily practice of starting up a phone tree with different individuals. And one person that she holds very near in her heart, she calls and talks to at least 100 minutes a day. Now, I don't know what they talk about for that 100 minutes, but there's certain, she says it helps take her mind off of all the world around her. And so she's an older person, so she likes to talk on the phone and doesn't like to text or tweet. So those are the types of things that we got going. I think we do have a lot of use of technology at all levels. And a number of people I've talked to have said that they have had interruptions on Zoom calls and other types of ways they've been trying to transmit because the systems just get overloaded. So I ask that everybody be understanding about that, and as it goes forward, if you get disrupted or disconnected, please try again, and you should be able to get back into shape. I'd like to focus for just a moment on the whole coronavirus thing as it applies to Batavia. I've received a number of calls and tweets and emails from folks that are very concerned about why we cannot reopen the town. And as most of you know, the governor has issued an executive order which is in force and effect in Illinois. He's extended it now into the end of this month. And so we are trying to abide by the governor's order. You've probably heard and seen and read various reports on the news media that some towns are thinking about trying to deviate from this. There's been several court challenges, quite a famous one now in Illinois and down in Jasper County, which is in southern Illinois, where a judge ruled that the governor's order was not legal. That one I think is being appealed to some other courts, and so if you were to make some decision based on that, you run the risk of having that earlier court order reversed. So I don't think there's not many mayors, including myself, that want to get ourselves involved in those types of a situation. I was asked to serve on the regional commission to talk about what steps need to be taken to reopen businesses and activities in Illinois. We had our first meeting this past week. We've got a couple more planned, and they do them all on Zoom, so I do it here from my office at City Hall. I think number one, there is a widespread recognition that the big problem on the table is that the corona numbers have not started really going down in any great degree. And in the case of Batavia, we have a very low number, but the number does continue to increase a little bit every week. We go up a few more cases, and I would credit a lot of that to being found in all the new testing opportunities that are being created. And so from that perspective, we are finding more and more people who seem to be a carrier, and then we ask them to quarantine themselves for a 2-week period of time, and that seems to be controlling it. But we really want to be very cautious about this because we don't want to suddenly open everything up and then suddenly have a new major reinvention of the disease and take down a whole bunch of other people, because those who have lost loved ones and family members and people that are in places of employment, this is a real devastating impact on many people, as most deaths always are, and we're trying to keep ourselves as much ahead of that whole situation as we can. So I am following the directions of the Kane County Health Department, which has been an outstanding organization to work with, and I know many of my fellow peers as other mayors in Kane County are doing the same thing, and we are just continuously, I will tell you, we're asking for further clarification and understanding sometimes with some of the ideas that seem to pop up as we go forward with this. But we are maintaining very tight watch over it. We do have the city government open, the police and fire department and the public works are open. Our public works people work every day. We are trying to remind everybody with masks to wear them. I carry one in my pocket. I don't put it on for this broadcast because I'm told when you speak through it, sometimes your voice gets muffled. So we're trying to do stuff that really I think speaks well to what really needs to be done, and I ask you to bear with us because as soon as we can open things up, I promise you we will try to open them up, and we may have to do it in kind of a phased approach. Maybe we'll have to ask all the stores to have everybody have a mask, or they give you a mask when you come in the door. All that's procedures yet to be determined, but we are working on that, I can tell you, with full force. So please bear with us as we go forward because this is not an easy situation. We're kind of writing the history of this, as we said the other night, and hopefully one of the things that will come out of the commission will be a kind of a written understanding of what all the events were, what happened, what didn't happen, what worked, what didn't work, and we'll be able to share that with future generations as kind of a written experience story about what really happened with the coronavirus in Illinois. That out of the way, I just want to cover a couple other things. Number one, there are masks available. If you feel like you need a mask, you can come down to City Hall, and we have some down here that we will provide you. We got some that people are making for us and leaving in a bag by the front door. And so we do have some available, and if you want one, you can certainly call us and we'll try to get one to you. So I appreciate your understanding on that. The other thing that I want to just briefly touch on is that we do have some people who are telling us they are having mental challenges or mental difficulties. And so we are fortunate in Kane County to have our 211 support service that is available. It's just dial, instead of 911, you dial 211. And in this we have counselors that are available to talk with people. Once you tell us what your issue may be, you probably would be transferred to one of them. And I'm told that the counselors we have the ability to speak in 150 different languages. So we're probably switching you off to someplace else, but if you should be able to talk to somebody there. In many instances, they are able then to refer you to a counselor in the area to go to, but many people are facing mental difficulties because of this. And another thing I really would like to cover, just briefly, is I'd like to pay some tribute to the Batavia educational system that we have in this town. Now, as most of you know, Batavia has been always a very strong supporter and very proud of our education system. Certainly we are today with the 6 elementary schools and the junior high, San Rotolo Junior High School and the Batavia High School building, of which the voters have gone to the polls on several occasions and approved major expansions and expenditures and increases of their taxes to maintain this. And the public school system, as I tell people, is probably the #1 reason why many people move to Batavia, because of the excellent reputation that we have. And as we all know, this whole situation has totally upset the entire school system as far as its schedule. We won't going to be able to have the prom this year on the date scheduled. I'm told that we are deferring high school graduation to a later date in the summer. Hopefully that'll still be able to be held, but it won't be when it normally is. And these are all, at the times for those who are graduating, these are all very, very upsetting experiences. But the thing I want to pay some tribute to is I'm told that online we still are shipping classroom lessons to everybody that wants to turn on their computer and take them. And we do have, so I am further informed, a lot of support from parents and guardians of all these children that are allowing their kids to watch Batavia schools via the computer. And so this is a real blessing in our favor that we have not totally shut the school door down. The lessons are still being taught. And I just want to commend, because I know people in education are very much challenged to having to put together a whole new set of presentations and ideas as to how they teach students. And so this is not something that you take lightly, and I just want to highly commend all the Batavia schools teachers that are out there, and certainly all the teachers that are from living in Batavia, maybe teaching in another school or retired, for all the excellence that they do to continue to be committed to their students. I have in my background, so I am told, I am the last living descendant of Louise White that still lives in Batavia. Now, Louise White is the lady who the school on the northeast side of Batavia is named after. And Louise was a very dear, she was still alive when I was a child. She lived to be 90 years of age, and she died in the mid-1960s. But Louise White used to always tell me that she always felt that the secret of a good teacher probably came from the fact that they came from good parents, or at least one parent who was really committed to that education of that person who was to become a teacher. And Louise White used to tell me the story that if you go today out on Fabian Parkway to where the Kane County has their recycling parking lot, just to the east of that there is a limestone structured house that's now got a lot of debris growing around it. But that house is still there, and I'm told the county's having discussions about the historical significance of the house. But the house was the farmhouse of Louise White's family when she was growing up. And so Louise White always told the story that she had to go to a country school in those days, and that her mother was so committed to her education that her mother would go out, and she had a wagon with a horse, and she'd go out with an axe and she'd cut wood up, and then she'd come over to the school in the wintertime with the wood so that they could keep the kids in the classroom warm. And Louise White always thought that was a really nice gesture on the part of her mother, that she would do all that. And her mother then would always come home, when Louise would come home from school, her mother would always go over her lessons with her. And Louise said her mother was such a proponent of education that it was back before you could buy individual letters of the alphabet very easily. So she used to crochet with needles all the letters of the alphabet. And then for Louise and her sister and her brother, her mother would hold up the A and the B and the C, and that's how they would learn in the early days, by their mother's crocheted letters. So I think about that today, and I'm aware of some situations right here in our own town where we've got some people who are the parents of school teachers. And some of these people are fabulous individuals. Their willingness, their generosity, but you can see why the education in our town and the surrounding area is so good, because there is a real backbone of support here. And I just want to pay a tribute, number one, to our teachers for all they are doing now under extraordinary circumstances. But I'd also like to just take a moment and pay tribute to the parents of all these teachers that we have in Batavia, because I think they are really kind of the secret of our success here, and instilling in their children the values and the need and the love of education that is now being showered today. So I know we are 10 days away from Mother's Day, and so there's going to be a lot of mothers of Batavia teachers that are probably going to have that holiday in their face here pretty quick. And I just wanted to pay tribute to those individuals, because they are about as good as you get in the city of Batavia, and they are some of our supreme citizens of excellence. And I just wanted to pay a tribute to the educational system, because throughout all this adversity that's been thrust upon it, it has continuously rose to the occasion. And under Superintendent Hitchens and her staff, they are doing a wondrous job, the building principals, of trying to maintain and keep the education running so that Batavia students don't miss a beat. So we are very, very fortunate. We have a lot of blessings in this town to count, and I am sure the day is coming when we will be through this one and we'll be able to write this history up about what really happened, and hopefully give it to future generations, so that, for heaven forbid this happens again someday, they'll have some ideas about what we did in 2020 to overcome some of the adversity that was thrust upon us. So my best wishes for the week. I ask for your continued support and social distancing and wearing your mask. And the day is coming when we won't have to ask you for this, but we're still there now, so please continue to do it. And I offer you my very best wishes for the week ahead. Thank you.